You type a long paragraph explaining exactly how their words made you feel. You read it twice, changing small phrases so nothing sounds unfair or dramatic. Then you hold the backspace key until the screen is completely blank. You lock the phone and place it face down on the table. When you are hurt, you rarely fight back. You do not raise your voice, throw accusations, or demand an immediate apology. You simply become completely quiet, leaving everyone else unable to read what is happening inside you. People have rigid labels for a reaction like this: cold, immature, passive-aggressive, or emotionally unavailable. But inside, you are not planning how to punish anyone. You are trying to survive the sheer volume of what you feel without making the moment worse. It can happen in the middle of an ordinary conversation. A tone changes, a familiar phrase lands differently, and something inside you suddenly goes still. You feel the exact split second the internal switch flips to mute. Your chest tightens, your limbs grow heavy, and the words you had disappear before reaching your mouth. Someone asks whether you are angry, and you automatically say you are fine. Then you walk into another room and close the door without slamming it. You sit on the edge of the bed with your shoes still on, staring at the floor. From the outside, this withdrawal can look cold and carefully calculated. It can resemble the silent treatment, especially to someone waiting for reassurance or an explanation. But not every silence serves the same purpose. The silent treatment uses distance to create pressure, punishment, or control. Emotional shutdown often begins before you have decided to do anything at all. Your silence is not always a weapon. Sometimes it is the only involuntary shield your body can raise. Psychologists often describe this broader pattern as emotional shutdown during nervous system overload. Some clinicians use polyvagal theory to understand how people disengage when conflict feels emotionally unmanageable. The most important point is much simpler than the theory. Your body may reduce speech and connection when it believes more engagement will create more danger. Fighting feels unsafe. Explaining feels useless, and leaving becomes the only response that seems capable of containing the damage. When the shutdown arrives, it is not merely a missing sentence. You may feel a sudden drop in your stomach and a strange heaviness across your shoulders. Your attention narrows until one ordinary object becomes easier to focus on than the conversation. A cup on the table, a crease in the curtain, or the blinking light on the router holds your eyes. The physical room becomes easier to process than the emotional room. This reflex was not built in one argument. It often grows in environments where speaking honestly carried a cost. Perhaps anger made an unpredictable room even louder. Perhaps you explained your pain once, only to have your words dismissed, mocked, or remembered against you later. Perhaps the safest response was to show absolutely nothing until everyone else calmed down. You learned that words did not always create understanding. Sometimes, those words only created more exposure and pain. So silence became the architecture you trusted for emotional safety. You learned to lower your expression, reduce your movement, and wait for the emotional weather to pass. What people called weakness may have started as precision. You were measuring the room, the other person, and how much honesty the moment could survive. That adaptation may have protected you when you had fewer choices. But an old defense does not ask whether the room has changed. It activates the moment pain resembles something familiar. Now, when you feel misunderstood, the wall can descend before you recognize that you are building it. There is dignity in refusing to turn every wound into a screaming match. There is restraint in stepping away before anger becomes cruelty. You may stop explaining because you refuse to beg for basic empathy. Silence is not automatically strength, simply because it is quiet. The same wall that blocks chaos can also block care. That is the hidden cost. You withdraw exactly when you need connection the most. You sit on the couch watching a show, but 10 minutes pass without you understanding a single scene. You hope someone will notice that your quietness is pain, rather than indifference. You build a fortress, then secretly wish one trusted person would knock gently. But other people cannot always see the invitation hidden inside the distance. They may respect the closed door and walk away. Then you are left alone with every sentence you could not say. The argument continues in the shower, during the drive home, and in the minutes before sleep. Your body has left the conversation, but your mind has not. The half-written reply often returns later that same night, and you type it again before deleting every line that feels unsafe. The immediate relief of silence becomes a heavier loneliness. Stop for a moment. You may be wondering whether this explanation excuses harmful behavior, but no explanation can excuse every harmful consequence of silence. A protective pause can still confuse or hurt someone who does not know whether you intend to return. Intent does not erase impact, but the pain it causes does not erase your original intent either. The question is not only whether you became quiet, but what your quietness was trying to do. Was it meant to make someone panic, chase, or surrender? Or was it the only way your overloaded system knew to prevent further damage? Did the silence become a punishment with no path back? Or was it a pause because your words no longer sounded like your own? The difference matters, but it is not always perfectly clean, because a shutdown can begin involuntarily and still become harmful through unexplained disappearance. You can need distance without pretending distance has no effect, and that awareness is not another reason to bury yourself in shame. It is maturity growing around an old defense. You are not cold. You are someone who learned that speaking during pain could make the pain larger. You are not broken. Your nervous system found a quiet way to protect your dignity and preserve what remained of the connection. Protection does not have to mean permanent exile. It is knowing when to pause, and knowing that a pause can eventually have a door back. You may still need another room, a locked screen, and 10 minutes without questions. You may need an hour before your breathing slows and your vocabulary returns. That need does not make you childish, because some people process emotional pain through distance before they can process it through language. What matters is giving that silence a shape the relationship can understand. A single sentence can sometimes protect both your nervous system and the relationship. "I am hurt, and I need time before I can speak clearly," does not explain everything you are carrying inside. It simply tells the other person that the door is closed for now, not sealed forever. The person who stopped explaining in the middle of a sentence looked defeated. The person who left the room looked dismissive. The person who deleted the paragraph and turned the phone face down looked uncaring. Every one of those behaviors had an understandable origin, and each one tried to prevent the moment from becoming more destructive, and each one carried a loneliness nobody else could see. You were never emotionally empty in those moments. You were carrying more emotion than language could hold safely. Your silence was not proof that you did not care, because it often showed how deeply you feared what uncontrolled words might destroy. You are allowed to pause without calling yourself toxic, and you are also allowed to return when your words feel like your own again. Your silence can be a waiting room rather than a disappearance, and maybe one day, someone will understand that you do not need to be chased. You need a calm presence that does not demand immediate answers. Someone who can sit beside you until the room feels safe enough for language again. Comment me if you have ever gone quiet while secretly wishing someone understood what the quiet really meant.